There we go. All right, I had to get my mic turned on. Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Terrence here with 1010 Studios. And today we're going to be talking logic. So as you can see here, we have a open blank logic session here. And we have essentially, the makings of a lot of great possible things. But today we're going to be talking more about making a template for a church environment. Let's just say you want to use Logic to help do your live stream, and you want the processing to be done via a Logic session compared to your digital workstation, your mixer, audio mixer, analog mixer, whatever it is you're using. You want Logic or a similar program to do your audio processing to give it the best possible sound. Now, a lot of what we discuss here are going to be, I guess you can say, universal techniques or methods or thought processes, workflows, call it what you want. But this is going to be just one way to at least get yourself set up. So it's best if you have a game plan in mind, and that game plan should include a couple different things. One, what is your end goal? Two, having the time to do this outside of your actual, live services or events. And this can be used in different, ways as well. If you're doing something on a repetitive basis and you want to create something that's going to help you as an audio engineer to get things started and have a baseline, this is one way to attempt to do that. So now, like I said, this is going to be just a workflow option. You can use this in different applications that you might so choose. Same principle is going to be, I guess, acceptable. So first things first is I would suggest when you start with a clean slate, first of all, know how many channels you're going to use. So I'm just going to create a bunch of new audio tracks. Now in Logic, when you first open it up, you can have it to create the amount of tracks you want to create. Didn't mean to do that. Delete that. So I did the same thing again. Me and my silly self. And then I blanked it all out. How nice is that? So that's what I get for not paying attention to what I'm talking about. So, all right, so here, when you open up Logic, it's going to give you the option to give how many tracks you want. So let's just say you do a track count, and between all of your instruments, all of your vocal mics, things like that, you come up with, let's say, 24 tracks. Now, 24 tracks is a good amount of tracks to work with. That's somewhat common or somewhat straightforward. So we're going to make it not 124, but we're going to make it 24 tracks. And then that'll get you started in regards to at least your track count. Now, this is presuming that you have a good understanding of your DAW, your software, in order to create something that's going to be, I guess, good for someone else to come in right behind you and kind of pick up where you left off and not have to worry about guessing where things are when it comes to this. Now, like I said, this can be used for a live stream. You might even run this for inside the house mix. Depends upon how you're going to set it up. But as long as you got a good template, you can come in and not be lost or anything like that. So now, depending upon the user, there's a couple ways, a couple schools of thought. One, you can set up your first, say, group of mics. Let's just say, let's say 1 through 8 are drums, right? So you would select, or can select it, and you want to, let's see, the track color. Where is it? There we go, assign track color. So let's just say you call these your drums. So let's make the drums yellow. And then let's make this one your keys, let's just say. Let's make this your guitar. Let's make this your, let's make that your bass. And then, what else we got? Let's see, we got track. Yeah, let's do track. Let's do the track orange-ish. And then let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's just say you got 4 vocal mics. And then you got some open channels, and we'll just call this whatever. Oh, actually, I meant to do this. All right, so those are your other channels. So now you got pretty much your groupings and your colors, right? Now, if you bring up by pressing the letter X, you can bring up your fader bank, right? So this is where you can do a couple of different things. One, you can see things laid out as like you're on an actual mixer, right, with your faders. You got your color groups here. Let's make this a different color because it's kind of bright and annoying. Chose a crazy color. Yeah, let's see if that works. All right, so that works out a little bit better. All right, so let's just say, let's start with the labeling, right? So let's say kick, right? Snare, and if you hit tab, it'll go to the next one. Let's say hi-hat. So tom 1, tom 2, tom 3. Let's say overhead left, overhead right, and I think I call this for the keys, right? So keys left, keys right. If I can type, I think my fingers are broke. Okay, keys left, keys right. I think I got that spelled right, yep. This one got too many Y's. Why didn't y'all tell me? All right, so keys left, keys right. Guitar. Bass. And we're gonna call this track. Left and track right. Now, for some churches, you don't run tracks, but you know, if you do, you can leave yourself the option to have that set up here. Now, what's going to be important is the fact that you make it so that it's easy for you. Now, the way we may set it up here may not be the way you set it up in regards to what's first. Some people put the vocals in the first few channels, which is fine. I mean, that's totally up to you. You can make your first bank vocals, and then you can do your instruments. Totally understandable. I've done that before and do that occasionally. Now, inside of Logic, there are a number of different, what we call the presets and the stock kind of settings. So just starting off with a kick, if you go to your drum section, you can pull up something, let's just say, you know, low end kick. So that could be your EQ for your kick right there. And then let's move this over to here. So let's go for your snare. Similar deal. Go to your drums. And then let's see here. Let's go for a natural snare. And for some reason I like to boost certain things as opposed to lowering certain things. Now you can of course customize it. As you can see, I have some custom settings myself, but at this point we're just going to start off with that natural snare. And then for the hi-hat, and all I'm doing is clicking right here inside the little EQ section to pull it up. You can go in a different way and make these changes. So let's see if they got something for the hi-hats. Cymbal EQ, overhead, rim, and let's go with, all right, here we go, standard hi-hat EQ. So they just boost up a little bit in the high frequencies, okay. Let's see, now we got, say, tom 1. And let's see what we got for the toms. I believe they got some specific ones for the toms here. Let's see, yep. All right, so we got a tom high, medium, and a floor. So let's do a high. Let's do tom 2 for medium. And then let's do the floor tom 3 for the floor. So I'm gonna put the toms kind of stacked here a little bit, see if I can get them all so you can kind of see where they're at. Did I get the tom 1 or did I close it? It's tom 3. Maybe I closed it. So I got 2 and I got 3. Let me find 1. Tom 1. All right, there we go. So tom 1 we got, tom 2, and tom 3. So just get an idea of, you know, where they sit, at least from what the default settings or default layout is. So you got your tom 1 over here. They got a boost at 148 hertz. Over here they got a boost at 192 and a dip of 660. A little raise, actually, no raise over there. And then we got a high raise at 7,400 hertz, raise of +3. On the tom 3, you got a boost at, let's see here, 106, a 4 + 5, a dip at 540 of -15, and then a little boost at 7,300 hertz, +3. So some of these are going to be very obvious in the way that they sound, and then others is going to be a little bit different. So it's not going to be the same. All right, so we got the toms taken care of. Let's see about the overhead. And before that, for the overheads, what I would suggest to do is creating like a folder stack. And let me get some of the stuff out of the way so it won't be so visually crazy here. And we can always come back to the EQ as needed, and I definitely recommend that you go back to the EQ as you start to listen to your mixes and you kind of sample some stuff. And it'll take some time for you to get through or get it to a point where you're going to be happy with it. So give yourself some time to get your stuff where you want it. Don't be frustrated right away. It's going to be a process. I've learned from experience, and I've wanted to be perfect the first time about, and that's not how it works all the time. If it does work out for you, great, but definitely don't expect it to be perfect the first or second time out the gate. Just saying. So for the sake of overheads, what I typically like to do is I select them both, and then I right click, and then I go to create track stack. And then a folder summing track is good enough here. So what that does basically, it lets you take those two channels, as now you see like there's a purple folder here, a purple section, and that's for the overheads. If you hit that little alligator mouth, it'll turn it to, show both channels. And you can set these, let's say if you set the level at, 5, let's just pick a number, right? So let's just say you think that -5 is your good amount of density there. So this fader is going to control both volumes. Even though you don't see it moving, it's going to control the volume for both of these channels into the mix overall. So this becomes a little sub mix, and this takes care of those two channels. So with the overhead mics, if you have left and right, this could be room mics as well, same principle. You can do this and separate them. Now another technique is to, in regards to your channel selection, your input selection, you can create where it's, inputs, matter of fact, let me show you something real quick. So you see this little button right there? That'll help you to create a stereo kind of a channel for that one. So you can put, the overheads left and right here, but you can't really pan it. So I suggest you leave it like this, or you can just do this if you don't plan to pan it. It's up to you. So having said that, if you're going to pan it left-right, you create that folder stack, you come back and you can mix it as needed. Just make sure you have a decent level coming in, nothing too crazy, nothing too hot. And then that'll let you do that. So let's relabel this real quick. So let's just call these overhead left and right. So now, when this is closed, I can see exactly what this is. Now, overhead left and right, so I know exactly what it is. And there's one less channel to see in your overall fader bank, right? Now, in regards to some of your other settings and things like that, you're going to want to make sure that you have a good understanding of where you need to be going forward. So you can do the same thing here with the keys, because the keys are going to be pretty solid. So let's create another one for this one. Create track stack. We can leave a folder and create. So now the color is going to be the same as you can see, but we're going to change that in a minute. So keys left and right. So let's change the color on this joker. And change the color. What color did we have? We had red. So let's make it red to match. So you stay in the same color scheme, and once again, same thing. Let's just say you want this to be -4.7, just because, and this is your main fader for it now. So now, the keys didn't go away, it's just now in one folder. And you can control the master volume for that. And if you need to make any dynamic changes, EQ changes, we can go here. So for the overhead, let's continue on down the line here. Since we're here, let's go to the EQ and let's go over to update the EQ for that. Let's see what they have for the overheads. Let's see, it's down here somewhere. Where did it go? Overheads, there we go. All right, so they like to boost it up there. Now, depending upon your overheads, I mean, you might not need to do this, but that's what they have. We're gonna go with that for right now, just for the sake of it. Now, the same thing you wanna do for here is you can go to the overhead as well to make sure both mics are with the same EQ settings. Overhead. Now, you can bust this out, but if you do that, you just create another channel, so I don't like to really do that necessarily. Just for the sake of sometimes you got a large track count, it's gonna look really long. You might get a little bit frustrated when you're trying to find something. Even if you have it labeled, even if you have it, marked properly, still, the more channels you gotta look at, the more busy the screen tends to be. So, and if you don't need certain tracks at a certain point, just get rid of them. I mean, it's as simple as that. You might, add a few extra tracks just for the sake of giving yourself flexibility. You can always add and remove a track as you need to. It's really not a big deal. All right, so we got the keys done, got the overhead done. Actually, we didn't do the keys as a EQ. Let's see what they got the keys EQ kind of settings. Usually you shouldn't have to really make too many changes on the key side of things, but let's just say we put a synth lead EQ. So we're going to do that on the left and the right. So we're going to do another synth lead. All right, so we got that taken care of. And once again, to make sure that you got your left rights, you got them panned, or any which way you like to do it, but I like to do it hard left, hard right with these kind of instruments. All right, so your guitar, let's see here. Got a boost on the guitar already, all right. Oh, wait a minute, hold up. Did I do that on the wrong one? Hang on. Yeah, I was on the wrong instrument. Y'all didn't even tell me. All right, so let's do it on the right ones now. So let's go keyboards. Where to go? Synth lead. Okay. And then over here as well. I didn't have that keyboard open up, so I thought I was doing something. I was probably sitting over there saying, man, you're on the wrong instrument. And I sure enough was. So we're going to a synth lead again here. But the good thing is that we can fix it. So we got that on both. Okay, so let's close up the lead and let's go to the guitar. And let's see what we got for the guitar. So there's a number of different options here, as you can see. Now this is a mix for a guitar, lead guitar and the bass guitar. So let's do a cleanup guitar. Let's see what that looks like. All right, so we'll work with that. Cleanup guitar looks to be okay. And then for the bass, let's see what we got for the bass. Let's go electric jazz bass. See how that sounds or looks. Now for the track, we can do what we did before here. We're going to select the two tracks in question here. We're going to create a stack track, the folder track, which is fine. And then we're going to track left and right. And then we're going to choose a color here. So good trick is to choose a color that you might already know because there's a lot that's going on here. Remember where that slot is and go back to the track you want to change and then just select it again. So this way they all match up if you so choose to do so. So now we got the track all labeled. We got the track pan left and pan right. So that takes care of that. And then, depending upon if you have any other instruments, you got other instruments, but for these, let's just do vocals real quick. So let's just do 1, Aux 2, Aux 3, Aux 4, and actually let's do MC, and then 1, 2, 3, and Aux 4. All right, so we got our vocals, like an MC, could be a pastor mic if it's a church environment, or MC just for the floor, house mic. We got your vocals, and then we have some other extra channels we can work with. Now, if we don't need these channels, we can simply just get rid of them. So highlight and delete. and then those are gone. So it gives us a little bit more real estate to work with, and so forth. So now this is just a starting point. Now, the interesting thing here is that there's a lot more that can be done. Okay, there's a lot more that can be done. I will go into a few more things I would suggest to have on your channels and show you generally a quick way of setting it up. All right, so for the sake of your channels that are going to be all used, what I suggest is, let's say for the drums, you highlight the drums and let's turn on a compressor. Now I recommend to have for this one, let's see, the adaptive limiter as well. So you can add those in and then you can tweak it as you need to. So for the overhead, definitely a compressor as well. And then for these two, well, let's just do more because a lot of these are going to have the same general rule of thumb in regards to the plugins. So let's get all of them in here. Let's turn on the compressor. I'm going to do an adaptive limiter. And once again, you're going to change the settings per. And then we're also going to do, let's see, what else we're going to do. I think that's pretty much it for the individual channels. And then we're going to do some stereo stuff in a minute. And then, now you can add more than one EQ. There's different types of EQs. There's single band EQs and vintage collections. So let me do this on the main because that's the next thing I should be going to anyway. So definitely want to put an adaptive limiter, and the order makes a difference. So we can reorder this as we need to. Now, how you want to do it is totally up to you. I would put a loudness meter to kind of visually see where you're at, just for the sake of, you can turn that off and on as you need to. And then let's see what else we need to do on here. We're going to have to do I got the adaptive limiter imaging, that's what I was looking for. So we do the stereo spread for the whole mix, and we'll talk about that here as well. And there's a few more that I would like to at least suggest to start with. And I just gotta find it. Not that one. Right, the de-esser. All right, so these are some of the things that I would start out with. So having a compressor, having a EQ that we already have some presets for, an adaptive limiter for the sake of loudness and keeping it from getting too out of hand based upon your input. You want to make sure you have that available to you. Oh, what did I press? I pressed something. And then also making sure you have the de-esser and a stereo spread. Now the stereo spread you can pretty much play around with, so I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So when you have a recording and you want to kind of make it sound not so narrow, so like right in the center, because if you're not careful, if you're not conscious of it, all the sounds will be like it's like right in the center. So that's why stereo left right is good to have for certain instruments, especially keys and things that are dynamic. Guitars are like probably right down the middle. You can pan it left or pan it right, but just naturally it's like a mono type of a instrument. Same thing with the drum. It's just a snare is a snare that typically you're gonna leave in the center. When it comes to some of your other parts of the drums, you want to pan, say, depending upon your taste, you pan one drum to the left, you know, your middle, your tom 2 to the middle, and your tom 3 to the right, maybe, depending upon your flavor or your taste. You make the adjustments accordingly. When it comes down to your overhead mics, typically I do a hard left, hard right. You can blend it a little bit. You can do 40-40 or, you know, whatever numbers you choose, but it just gives some separation when it comes to your ears. We hear in stereo, so you can kind of get the dynamic feel from left to right as a, you know, drummer goes across their toms, you know, from tom 1 to tom 2 to tom 3. You kind of hear it go from left to middle to right, so that gives you some separation. When it comes to overheads, it's like just kind of left, right. Some cymbals are more to the left, some more to the right, so you get that kind of feel naturally. The kick and the snare is typically right down the middle. A hi-hat, you know, you can pan it to the left a little bit just because if you want, or to the right if you want. I say leave it in the middle just because it's just a hi-hat. It's, you know, more for timing, things like that, and it's, you know, should be spread out. Now, you can do a few things here with the stereo out spreader on the actual main out. So this is that means everything's going to be affected. So when you have this feature turned on here, this gives the most widest spread, but you do have some presets. Let me get down to it here. So you have like a light, and you'll see it's only going to affect this frequency range. It's not going to affect anything past here, essentially. And then you have that version. Affects pretty much the whole range, just not the same way. You got the medium, which is, you know, pretty much a higher end, but somewhere just a little bit off, but still for a good high frequency effect. This one affecting the whole range, which you would affect the low and the high part. And then you have this one, which is still towards the high end side. It's not really affecting the low end. So this one is the one I kind of start with usually on the main outs, just because it gives a decent amount of low end spread, a little bit high, and somewhat in the middle. Not necessarily everything, but just a little bit here in the middle. So that's a good starting point, and tweak it to taste. Now, if you notice here, you have some channels for effects. You can make more channels for effects if you like to. I wouldn't suggest putting effects on each individual channel and making, you know, all various, you know, forms of effects. So, and the reason why I say that, because you can start getting really, really lost in how to try to make it sound really nice, but end up making it sounding unexpectedly not great. So you want to, you know, I would say maybe have a few effects at the end of the chain of your faders, and then be able to route them to here. So for those who don't realize it, these right here, the bus 2 and 3, these are bus 2 and 3. And one way you can see how that works is, let's just take a instrument. Let's take it to guitar. So if I click on here and I go to bus, you'll see that there's nothing in 1 because it's just not selected, but you got 2 and 3, the ambience and so forth. You got a lot more options to work with here. So let's just say you want another bus. Click on that, and now you got bus 1, which is behind 2 and 3. Not a big deal, but you know, it's just, it is what it is, right? So you can actually put in here whatever you want. Let's just say you want to have a effect of sorts. Let's say you want a, let's say an ensemble. Yeah, let's do an ensemble. And depending upon what you want to choose here, you can pick something that looks to be nice. Let's say a backing group. Let's just say we call this a backing group, and then we're going to route some voices to it. So we did start with the guitar, so let's change that. Let's put this back to here just because. But we're going to do the voices, right? So once again, shift, and these are going to be the singers. We're going to go to bus number 1, which is aux 3, so we're going to call this ensemble. And then let's change the color. Where's that color? Sign strip color. Let's make it much like the purple. Did we pick the right one? Yeah, we picked the right one. All right, so we got our ensemble. So now we got all the voices, Vox 1 through 4. We got them all in bus 1. And now all we'd have to do to give a little bit of juice is to click and hold and turn it up a little bit. Now right now I don't have anything going through it. This is just a sample session, but you see how you can kind of do everything at once and you ain't got to do it one by one. Now also let's just say we want a little bit of a hall. So the hall is number, what is that, 3, so we're already in there. So we can just turn that up a little bit as well. And then if we want to add, say, the ambience as well, just right below it. You click right below it and you can go into the ambience. And then now we got another bus and we can juice that up as well. So now we got all 3 in there, and that'll allow us to control those. And of course you got presets in these. You can go in here and kind of choose something, what kind of delay you want, a long space, a medium space, small spaces. So let's just say a medium, and let's just say a room, let's call it a tight room. So that'd be a tight room for the ambience. We don't always want to go too crazy. And then for the hall, let's do a medium space. And let's do let's do an open air stadium. All right, so for the sake of looking at the differences here, so that's what that looks like, the differences. So their settings, let's see, 0 milliseconds on both for the pre-delay, 2.12 seconds, and 1.83 here. Size is 100 on both. Crossover is at the same. The spread is at 100. High spread is at 100. The wet and dry is about the same. So you can make changes as you put your different, inputs in here, your voices or instruments. Just be very careful. You don't want to go too crazy on the settings. You want enough to show you or be able to be heard a little bit, but you don't want it to be overbearing. You want to give the idea that you're in a space physically that you're not in. So, putting too much reverb on something, unless that's the kind of effect you're going for, that'll take a little bit away from the balance of things, because your ear is going to be so focused on the reverb or the effects and not the actual natural part of it. So keep it as, mellow as you can, and depending upon, what you want to do with it, play around with it just a tad bit. So now after all is said and done, you don't want to lose none of this, so you want to go to File, Save As, and then go ahead and label it, save it somewhere safe, and I would dare say save it in more than one place. After you've gotten everything that you believe you're going to need to get started with in order to get you to a place to, come back to. Now, will you need to change this at some point? Most definitely. You're not going to get it right the first time, and if you do, you're fooling yourself. Just saying. Because if you've ever worked on any sort of a project and you really want it to sound great, come out great, you're going to think about this 30 times a minute, just because there's so many different aspects, so many things to consider, so many things you want to make sound even better. And as you listen to, let's say like a flat kind of when I say flat, meaning no kind of, EQing, no kind of effects on it, just your raw input, you hear certain things you might want to accent, you hear certain things you want to take out a little bit because you don't want it to be so present, to be so distracting. Then maybe later on down the line, you might change your mind about that. You might say, hey, I'm losing something out of this particular instrument or that particular voice. I need to add it back or start from scratch. One way or the other, you're going to come back to it time and again, time and again, time and again. So when it comes to this is just a starting point potentially of how you can lay it out. And then as time goes on, all you got to do is tweak it, solo out an instrument, just solo it, listen to it. In this case, there's no EQ on a hi-hat. So, matter of fact, there's EQ on a hi-hat. You might say, you know what, this EQ is just a little bit too bright. I don't mind the form, but let's just bring it down a tad bit. Let's see how that sounds with taking that out. Okay, that sounds better. Okay, great. You had a starting point, but you changed it up a little bit. Some people might say, this is perfect. I like the way it is. It's hot, nice, and crisp. That mic is crazy, but, it's not clipping. Okay, whatever. Some people say, you know what? I don't like this at all. Let's go ahead and totally go like this here. Okay, I hear the difference. All right, that's fine. That works. And you might leave it like that. You never know. You come back tomorrow, you want to change something else. It's just one of those things. Now, when it comes to, there was another thing I'd recommend to have added here, I almost forgot. So on the kick, just for the sake of knowing where things are at, there is a beat per minute counter. It works out pretty well. Don't know how accurate it is, but it's pretty cool to see where you think where the system thinks your beats per minute is in regards to your kick drum. That's where I would put it. Nowhere else. All right, so once that's all said and done, and let's just say you made other changes here, with putting some stuff inside the actual effects, everything looks good. Another thing you can do is affect the EQ on the effects. Now, generally speaking, I put a little bit of low filter on it. Same thing with the high. I kind of start something like this here, just to keep some of that high stuff from bouncing back and the low stuff from being rumbly too long. Depending upon the intensity, you can do the same thing. No particular number itself, just shaving off based upon the nature of your inputs. And that's pretty much that. So now at this point, take this solo off. At this point, you have a full set of tracks. You got your first group for your instruments of the drums, basically. And then you got the next group with your keys, which are in the folder, because stereo left, right. Guitars by itself, bass is by itself. You got tracks left, right in the folder. And then you have your mics. Now, you can do the same thing here if you'd like to. So let's just say you want to folder this. Let's just do that now just because. Stack track, folder, boom. So now, let's see, these are voices, basically. All right, so now we got that. So now, you don't even have to scroll up and down anymore. Now, if you have this, you may have to scroll up and down, but here, you can just control all the voices from here if you need to. Or if you bring this back up, you can make this a little bit larger and it doesn't have to be so small, and you can control your voices right here. Now, of course, you want to be able to mix them as you need to. So let's just say this is your voices, and then you can control everything from right here in regards to all of the voices right here to blend it in if you got a decent mix. And if your singers are staying at the relatively same volume. And let's see, assign my color. I'm going to choose that one. Boom. So now my voices are the same. All right, and that's it. There it is. So this is just an example of how you can set up yourself to be, at least more effective in regards to your getting started, and you don't have to worry about, losing out on time by setting up, because if you've ever been in an environment where you had to get started real quick, you're probably not going to have the time to set this all up and get it right. I mean, you can set it up, but you'll be sitting there like, oh man, did I get everything? Did I miss a channel? Did I pick the right input? And all a bunch of things. So your best bet is to work on this at home, outside of your, real-time environment. And then once you get there, just tweak it as needed after the fact. And then when you come in, all you got to do is load up the preset template. You got less work to worry about, less challenges to, ahead of you in real time, because they're going to be coming at you with different things, and you're going to have to deal with the day-to-day stuff or the in-house stuff. And at that point, it's going to be making you more frustrated. So the pre-work, the pre-setup is going to be really important. Same thing can work on a digital mixer. If you pre-set up your digital mixer for those, events, that's going to be a repetitive thing, week after week, month after month, or event to event, and nothing much changes, you don't have to start from scratch. So get your template set up, label it, and then, 3 months down the road, see if the template works for you. If it doesn't work for you, change it up a little bit, see if that works out better for you, and go from there. So that's essentially what we got for you here today. I really appreciate you joining us here today. Hopefully you've picked up on a few different things. If you see some things that could have been implemented differently to be more effective, by all means, please leave a comment here on this video. We'd like to hear from you, and we'd like to learn from anyone who has some good ideas or techniques and kind of workflows to help improve setup, operation, the actual flow of the event, things like that. And then, of course, just doing a recording and then coming after the fact to follow it up with your, in-house or in-studio session or in-studio kind of modifications. Because I'll tell you from experience, mixing, say, in Logic inside of the actual event itself, it can be done, but it can be challenging if you're not isolated from the event space. So if you have all that sound and all that energy kind of coming through, your ears for the most part, even if you have on headphones, you're going to hear some of that energy coming through. You're going to feel it in your body. It's going to affect the way you perceive that sound. And then that is going to in turn make you make decisions that are probably not best for your intended, kind of application on it. So if you're planning on mixing a live stream from, say, Logic or a similar program, it may not be the way you want it to, come out. I've been dealing with that for a couple of weeks with a particular church and location. It's not as easy to mix it because we're doing it straight from the board. We're not using Logic. But after you come home, if you put it in there, you tweak it out, you can make it your own and don't have to worry about it itself. You're not tweaking it out, you're just tweaking it to make sure it comes out the right way you want. Don't judge me. Anyway, so make sure that you practice. Make sure you hone in on what you're looking for. Listen to something that you may like and you may want to, I wouldn't say duplicate, but use it as like a somewhat of a standard, because there are different, services or churches or mixes or, online streams that you might say, hey, that's the kind of stream I want. That's the kind of sound I want from my stream with my church or with my event or my, whatever. Try to hear what they're doing there. And then the way to do it is going to take you probably some time to figure it out. But once you get that right setting, once you get what you need, stick with it, come back to it, just keep practicing, and you get better with it. So until next time, stay tuned, stay blessed. You guys have a great evening. It's a little bit late, so I'm gonna go hit the sack. I'm tired, it's been a long day, and got a few more things to do here for the rest of the week. All right, so let's see here. I'm gonna wrap this up here and let you guys go. I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us, and make sure that you keep practicing, and we'll see you the next time.